Picture this. You're about to hit publish on something you created. Maybe it's a blog post, a video, a piece of art, or even just a vulnerable social media post. Your finger hovers over the button. Your heart is racing. Your palms are sweating. That familiar voice in your head whispers, "What if they hate it? What if I look foolish? What if I'm not good enough?" Your rational mind knows this is just a piece of content. No one's life is at stake. The worst thing that could happen is, what? Some criticism? A few negative comments? Maybe someone scrolling past without engaging? Yet here you are, frozen, as if you're standing at the edge of a cliff instead of clicking a simple button on your computer. Isn't it fascinating? We're a species that has split atoms, landed on the moon, and sent messages across the cosmos in milliseconds. We built machines that can think, created art that moves souls, and solved mysteries that puzzle humans for millennia. Yet here we are, frozen by the thought of sharing our truth with other humans. We can face down natural disasters, perform surgery on beating hearts, and launch ourselves into space. But we can't hit send on an email that matters to us. Welcome to today's journey into one of the most fundamental questions of human existence. Why do we experience fear? Not just the obvious fears, like heights or spiders or public speaking, but those subtle, persistent fears that whisper in the background of our daily lives. The fear of not being enough, the fear of being too much, the fear of being seen, and equally, the fear of being invisible. I'm your host, and today we're going on an expedition, not just through your mind, but through the entire story of fear itself. We're going to travel back through time, from the primordial soup where the first organisms learned to flee danger, through the savannas where your ancestors first felt their hearts race at the sound of rustling grass, to this very moment as you listen to these words, wondering if you'll find something here that might change how you see yourself. We're going to explore why your brain treats a job interview like a life or death situation, why you check your phone anxiously after posting something personal, and why the very things you want most in life are often the things that terrify you most. We'll discover why your fear of failure and your fear of success might actually be the same fear, wearing different masks. Here's my promise to you. By the end of our time together, you'll understand that your fear isn't your enemy. It's not a character flaw or a sign of weakness. It's not something you need to eliminate or overcome or push through with enough willpower. It's ancient wisdom, sometimes brilliant, sometimes outdated, sometimes hilariously misguided, but always try and protect you. You'll discover that every time you called yourself anxious, neurotic, or broken, you were actually witnessing the most sophisticated survival system ever created in action. You'll learn to see your fear not as a prison, but as a compass, imperfect, sometimes pointing in the wrong direction, but always pointing towards something that matters deeply to you. So take a breath. Let your shoulders relax. Release that tension you're holding in your jaw, your neck, your chest. Because we're about to discover why being afraid doesn't make you broken. It makes you beautifully, perfectly, magnificently human. Let me tell you a story that began about 300,000 years ago in a landscape so different from our world today that it might as well be another planet. Picture one of your ancestors. Let's call her Arya. She's walking through tall grass in ancient Africa. The sun is beginning to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. She's returned to her tribe after gathering roots and berries, her arms full of the day's harvest. Suddenly, she hears a rustling in the grass behind her. In that split second, her brain has to make a choice. Is that the wind moving to the grass, a small animal scurrying away, or is that a predator that could end her life in the next 30 seconds? Now, Arya's brain could spend time analyzing the situation. It could consider the wind patterns that day, the likelihood of predators in this particular area, the sound patterns of different animals, the time of day, and what that might mean for hunting behaviors. It could weigh the probabilities. run through various scenarios, and make a careful, measured decision based on all available data. But here's the problem. While she's thinking, she could become something's dinner. So instead, her brain makes a different choice. It chooses speed over accuracy. It chooses survival over being right. Fear floods her system like a dam bursting. Her heart pounds, not because it's malfunctioning, but because it's doing exactly what millions of years of evolution designed it to do, pumping blood to her legs so she can run faster than she's ever run before. Her breathing quickens, flooding her body with oxygen. Her pupils dilate, sharpening her focus and widening her peripheral vision. Stress hormones surge through her bloodstream, temporarily giving her almost superhuman strength and speed. She doesn't think, she runs. She doesn't debate, she acts. She doesn't analyze, she survives. 9 times out of 10, it was just the wind. Maybe 99 times out of 100, her tribe might have even teased her about it. There goes Ari again, jumping at shadows. But that one time, that one crucial time when it actually was a predator, that fear response saved her life. And because she survived, she passed those genes on to her children, who pass them on to their children, through an unbroken chain that leads directly to you. This is the gift your ancestors gave you, a brain that would rather be wrong and alive than right and dead, a nervous system that would rather sound 1,000 false alarms and miss the one real threat, a mind that would rather have you overprepare, overworry, and overthink than have you be caught off guard by genuine danger. But here's where the story gets interesting and where our modern struggles begin to make sense. That same brain, with those same survival mechanisms, is now navigating a world that didn't exist when these patterns were first carved into our DNA. Think about it for a moment. When you're about to give a presentation and your heart starts racing, that's Aria's heart. When you're considering asking someone out and your palms get sweaty, those are Aria's palms. When you're thinking about starting that business or writing that book or sharing that vulnerable post, and suddenly you find every reason why it won't work, why you're not qualified, why you should wait until you're more prepared. That's Aria's brain, still trying to keep you safe. That's not modern anxiety you're experiencing. That's not a character flaw or a sign that you're not cut out for big things. That's ancient protection software running on modern hardware. It's like trying to run the latest video game on a computer from 1995. There's going to be some glitches. Your fear of judgment? That's your brain remembering a time when being rejected by your tribe didn't just hurt your feelings. It was literally a death sentence. Humans are pack animals. We're not built like tigers who can survive alone. We don't have claws or fangs or the ability to take down prey by ourselves. For 99.9% of our species history, being cast out from the group meant facing predators, starvation, harsh weather, and countless other dangers with nothing but your own 2 hands. Being alone meant death. So your brain developed an exquisitely sensitive system for detecting any sign that you might be losing favor with the group, any hint of disapproval, any sense that you were different or difficult or too much or not enough. Your brain tagged these as potential threats to your survival. So when your boss gives you feedback and your stomach drops, when you post something online and obsessively check for negative comments, when you walk into a party and feel like everyone is staring and judging you, that's not you being dramatic or oversensitive. That's your ancient brain saying, "Alert! Alert! The tribe might reject us. We could be cast out. This could be dangerous." Your fear of failure? That's your brain remembering that in the ancestral environment, failure often meant death. If you failed at finding food, you starved. If you failed at finding shelter, you froze. If you failed at reading social cues, you were ostracized. There was no safety net, no second chances, no time to learn from your mistakes in many cases. Here's the key insight I want you to carry with you, the one that can change everything. Your fear isn't broken. It's not a malfunction. It's not a sign that you're weak or neurotic or not cut out for the life you want. Your fear is functioning exactly as designed for a world that no longer exists. It's like having a smoke detector that's so sensitive it goes off every time you make toast. The detector isn't faulty. It's just calibrated for a different environment. It's doing its job perfectly. It's just that the job it was designed for isn't quite the job it needs to do now. So here we are in the 21st century, walking around with caveman brains in a cosmic age, carrying Stone Age software in our space age world. And it's creating what I call the modern fear paradox. We're afraid of things that literally cannot kill us, but our bodies respond as if they could. We're afraid of things that our ancestors couldn't even have imagined, yet our fear response treats them with the same urgency as a charging rhinoceros. That notification sound on your phone, that little ding or buzz that seems so innocent, triggers the same stress response that once helped your ancestors escape from predators. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a text message and a tiger. Both are unexpected. Both demand immediate attention. Both could potentially signal danger. The judgment of strangers on the internet activates the same alarm system that was designed to keep you alive when your survival literally depended on group acceptance. Your brain doesn't understand that these are people you'll never meet, in places you'll never go, whose opinions have no actual bearing on your safety or well-being. To your ancient brain, rejection is rejection, and rejection meant death. Social media has become our modern savanna, full of perceived predators lurking behind every scroll. Every time you open Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, you're entering a comparison hunt that your brain treats as a threat assessment. Look how successful they are. Look how happy their family seems. Look how confident they appear in that photo. Look how many likes they got. Look how many followers they have. And your ancient brain translates this as, we're falling behind the tribe. We're becoming expendable. We're not keeping up. We might get left behind. It doesn't matter that these are carefully curated highlight reels, that everyone is struggling with something. That comparison is a thief of joy. Your brain sees threat, and it responds accordingly. Perfectionism? That's fear wearing a fancy outfit, masquerading as a virtue. It whispers seductively, if we can just be flawless, if we can anticipate every criticism, if we can control every variable, if we can make sure there's no possible way anyone can find fault with us, then we'll be safe. But perfectionism isn't about excellence. It's about armor. It's the belief that if we can make ourselves bulletproof, we'll finally be worthy of belonging. But here's what perfectionism really does. It keeps us from ever truly being seen. Because if everything we share is polished and perfect and risk-free, then people aren't connecting with us. They're connecting with our armor. And deep down, we know this, which is why perfectionism never actually makes us feel safer. It just makes us feel more isolated. And the cost of all this? We're living in a constant state of alert. Our nervous systems are running a marathon that never ends. Imagine if your car's security alarm went off every time a leaf fell on it, every time the wind blew, every time a bird landed on the hood. That's what we're doing to ourselves. We're treating every challenge, every uncertainty, every possibility of judgment as a potential threat to our survival. Our cortisol levels are chronically elevated. Our sleep is disrupted. Our digestion suffers. Our immune systems are compromised. We're exhausted, not from doing too much, but from being afraid too much. We're burning through our reserves responding to imaginary tigers, while the real challenges of our lives, the ones that actually matter, get put on the back burner. Let me share a story about someone I know. We'll call her Maya. Maya had a dream of starting a podcast about sustainable living. She was passionate about environmental issues, had done extensive research, possessed valuable insights from years of living zero waste, and people were constantly asking her for advice. She had a unique perspective, having grown up in a family that had always lived close to the land, and she spent years experimenting with everything from composting to solar power to permaculture. But for 2 years, that podcast remained just an idea in her head. Not because she didn't have time. She spent hours every week consuming other people's content about sustainability. Not because she didn't have the technical skills. She figured out all the equipment and software. Not because she didn't have something valuable to say. Her friends were always telling her she should write a book. Why? Because every time she sat down to record that first episode, a flood of fears would wash over her. What if my voice sounds weird? What if I stumble over my words? What if I say something wrong and people correct me? What if people think I'm not qualified enough? What if environmental scientists listen and think I'm oversimplifying? What if nobody listens at all? What if people listen and think I'm boring? What if they criticize my approach? What if they point out my inconsistencies? What if they ask questions I can't answer? Maya wasn't just afraid of failure. She was afraid of visibility itself. Because somewhere deep in her ancient brain, being seen meant being vulnerable, and being vulnerable meant potential danger. Being visible meant people could judge her, criticize her, find her lacking. And judgment, to her ancestral brain, meant possible rejection. And rejection meant death. So she stayed small. She kept her wisdom to herself. She scrolled through other people's content, sometimes feeling inspired, often feeling inadequate, always wondering, what if? She'd start to record, then delete the file. She'd write scripts, then throw them away. She'd get excited about an idea, then talk herself out of it. She became an expert in what I call productive procrastination, staying busy with research, planning, organizing, preparing, anything except the one thing that actually mattered, sharing her voice with the world. Maya's story is all of our stories, isn't it? We're paralyzed not by actual threats, but by the ghosts of ancient dangers that no longer exist. We're letting our Stone Age brains run our Space Age lives, and it's keeping us from becoming who we're meant to be. But here's where the story gets beautiful, and I want you to zoom out with me for a moment. I want you to step back from your individual fears, your personal struggles, your daily anxieties, and see the bigger picture. Fear isn't just a human experience. It's written into the very fabric of existence itself. It's part of the cosmic story that began 13.8 billion years ago and continues through you at this very moment. Even stars experience something like fear. When a massive star begins to run out of fuel, when it's burned through its hydrogen and helium and started fusing heavier elements, it faces a cosmic crisis. The outward pressure from nuclear fusion that has kept it stable for millions of years begins to weaken. Gravity, which has been held at bay all this time, starts to win the battle. In that moment of cosmic fear, that resistance to change, that clinging to what has been, that terror of the unknown, the star begins to collapse under its own gravity. It's as if the star is saying, "No, I don't want to change. I want to stay as I am. I'm afraid of what comes next." But here's the magnificent part. That compression, that collapse, that cosmic fear becomes so intense that it triggers something extraordinary. When the core reaches a certain density, it explodes in a supernova, an explosion so brilliant it outshines entire galaxies, so powerful it can be seen from billions of light years away. And from that stellar death, that cosmic transformation that began with fear, new elements are forged in temperatures and pressures that exist nowhere else in the universe. Gold, silver, iron, calcium, the very elements that make up your bones, your blood, your beating heart, all of it created in the dying moments of stars that were once afraid to change. Those elements get scattered across the cosmos, eventually becoming part of new star systems, new planets, new possibilities. The iron in your blood was forged in the heart of a dying star. The calcium in your bones was created in a supernova explosion. You are literally made of stardust, not just poetically, but scientifically, factually, undeniably. Your fear connects you to this ancient cosmic story. It connects you to every human who has ever lived, every creature that has ever faced uncertainty, every force in the universe that has ever resisted change before transformation. When you feel afraid, you're participating in a pattern that's as old as the universe itself. Think about that for a moment. Every human who has ever achieved something meaningful, every person who has ever created something beautiful, every individual who has ever made a difference in the world, they all felt fear. Fear before they painted their masterpiece. Fear before they wrote their novel. Fear before they started their business. Fear before they spoke their truth. Fear before they fell in love. Fear before they had children. Fear before they stood up for what they believed in. Fear isn't the opposite of courage. Fear is the raw material from which courage is made. You can't be brave without first being afraid. The word courage comes from the Latin cor, which means heart. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and letting your heart guide you forward anyway. When you feel afraid, you're not alone. You're part of an unbroken chain of beings who have faced the unknown and somehow found the courage to continue. Every ancestor whose heart raced in the face of danger, but who moved forward anyway. Their courage lives in your DNA. Every generation that faced uncertainty, change, loss, and transformation, their resilience flows through your veins. But here's the shift I want to offer you, the reframe that can change everything. What if fear is an instruction? What if it's just information? Think of fear as your internal weather report. When you check the weather forecast, it doesn't tell you whether or not to leave a house. It gives you information so you can dress appropriately. If it's going to rain, you might bring an umbrella. If it's cold, you might wear a jacket. If it's sunny, you might bring sunglasses. But the weather report doesn't make your decisions for you. Fear works the same way. It's your internal system saying, hey, we're about to do something that feels significant, something that matters, something that could change us. Let's pay attention. Let's be present. Let's bring our full awareness to this moment. What if your fear is actually the universe being cautious through you? What if it's cosmic intelligence saying, this matters to you, doesn't it? This thing you're about to do, this risk you're about to take, this truth you're about to share, this love you're about to express, it matters so much that I'm going to flood you with energy and attention. Because here's what I've noticed, and I want you to really think about this. We're never afraid of things that don't matter to us. You're not afraid of publishing that blog post about something you don't care about. You're afraid of sharing your truth because it is your truth. You're not afraid of starting that business idea you're lukewarm about. You're afraid of the one that makes your soul sing because that's the one that matters. You're not afraid of being rejected by people whose opinions mean nothing to you. You're afraid of being rejected by the people whose love and acceptance you crave. You're not afraid of failing at something you don't care about. You're afraid of failing at the things that represent your deepest values, your highest aspirations, your most authentic self. Fear is often love in disguise, love for our dreams, love for our potential, love for the parts of ourselves we haven't yet learned to trust. It's your soul's way of saying, this is important, this is precious, this is worth protecting. What if instead of seeing fear as a stop sign, you started seeing it as a compass? Not a perfect compass. Sometimes it points you toward things that no longer serve you. Sometimes it gets confused by old programming. But still, a compass that's always pointing towards something that matters deeply to you. So, let's sit with this for a moment. Let's integrate what we've discovered together on this journey through deep time and cosmic space, through the story of your ancestors and the fears that live in your own heart. I want you to think about a fear you're carrying right now. Maybe it's the fear that brought you to this podcast. Maybe it's something that's been whispering in the background of your life for months or even years, something you've been carrying like a stone in your pocket, heavy and familiar. Maybe it's the fear of starting something new. That business, that creative project, that conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's the fear of ending something, that relationship that's run its course, That job that's draining your soul, that pattern that no longer serves you. Maybe it's a fear of being seen as you truly are, or the fear of remaining invisible forever. Now I want you to ask yourself, what if this fear is actually love trying to keep you safe? What if that fear of being judged is actually your soul's way of saying, what you're about to share is precious to me. This truth, this creativity, this authenticity, it's sacred. I want to protect it. What if that fear of failure is actually your heart saying, this dream matters so much that I can't bear the thought of it not working out. This vision of who you could become is so beautiful that I'm terrified of losing it. What if your fear of success is actually your spirit saying, I'm afraid that if you become who you're meant to be, you'll outgrow the people who love you now. I'm afraid that if you shine your light fully, you'll be alone in your brightness. Here's a reframe exercise I want you to try, and I want you to really commit to this. The next time you feel fear creeping in, instead of fighting it or judging yourself for having it, instead of trying to push through it or overcome it or pretend it's not there, try saying this: thank you for protecting me, but I'm safe to grow. Say it out loud if you can. Thank you for protecting me, but I'm safe to grow. Thank your fear like you would thank an overprotective parent. You know the kind. The parent who still wants to walk you to school when you're 30, who calls to remind you to wear a jacket when it's cold, who worries about you driving in the rain. Their concern comes from love, but at some point, you have to gently let them know that you've got this. Acknowledge your fear's good intentions. Then gently let it know that you've got this, that you're capable, that you've grown, that you're ready for whatever comes next. Now, here's your challenge, and it's a gentle one, I promise. I want you to identify one fear you're carrying and ask yourself, what does this really try to protect? Is your fear of starting that creative project actually protecting your need to feel competent? Then maybe the real need is for you to remember all the things you've already learned to do, all the skills you've already developed, all the challenges you've already overcome. Maybe you need to gather some evidence of your own capability. Is your fear of having difficult conversations actually protecting your need for connection? Then maybe the real need is to find ways to express your truth that deepen connection rather than threaten it. Maybe you need to practice speaking from love rather than from frustration or anger. Is your fear of being visible actually protecting your need for acceptance? Then maybe the real need is to find your people, the ones who will love you not despite your quirks and imperfections, but because of them. Maybe you need to remember that the right people will find you when you stop hiding. Is your fear of change actually protecting your need for security? Then maybe the real need is to create a foundation of inner security that doesn't depend on external circumstances staying the same. Maybe you need to remember that you survived 100% of your worst days so far. When you can see what your fear is trying to protect, you can address the real need without letting the fear run your life. You can thank the fear for its service and then take care of yourself in a way that honors both your need for safety and your need for growth. Remember Maya, who was afraid to start her podcast. She eventually did start it, not because her fear went away. It didn't. Even now, 2 years later, she still feels nervous before hitting record. But because she began to see her fear differently, she started saying, "Oh, I'm afraid because this matters to me. I'm afraid because I care deeply about doing this well, about helping people, about being authentic. I'm afraid because I want to make a difference, and making a difference requires being vulnerable." Her fear became a compass pointing toward what mattered most to her. Instead of a wall blocking her path, it became a doorway into deeper purpose. She stopped trying to eliminate the fear and started trying to understand what it was protecting. And now, her podcast has helped thousands of people live more sustainably. She gets messages from listeners telling her how much her authentic voice has impacted their lives, how her willingness to share her mistakes and experiments has given them permission to try their own. She's built a community of people who are changing the world one small action at a time. The thing she was most afraid of sharing, her imperfect, genuine, caring humanity, turned out to be exactly what the world needed from her. Her vulnerability became her superpower. Her fear became her compass. Her authenticity became her gift. That could be your story too. The thing you're most afraid to share might be exactly what the world is waiting for. The voice you're afraid to use might be the one that someone desperately needs to hear. The dream you're afraid to pursue might be the one that brings you the most joy and makes the most difference. As we come to the end of our journey together today, I want to leave you with this episode's mantra, and I want you to say it with me, out loud if you can. I am not broken, I am human. Say it again. I am not broken, I am human. Your fear doesn't make you weak. Your anxiety doesn't make you flawed. Your worry doesn't make you less than anyone else. Your sensitivity doesn't make you fragile. Your tendency to overthink doesn't make you neurotic. It makes you part of the great cosmic story of consciousness trying to protect itself, love trying to keep what it cherishes safe, and wisdom, sometimes ancient, sometimes outdated, but always well-intentioned, trying to guide you through a complex and often confusing world. You are the descendant of countless generations of survivors. You carry the DNA of beings who faced down predators, survived ice ages, crossed oceans, and overcame obstacles that would terrify us today. Their courage lives in your cells. Their resilience flows in your blood. Their strength is your birthright. Next time, we're going to explore another piece of this beautiful puzzle of being human. We'll dive into the question, why did you stop trusting yourself? We'll discover how you learned to doubt your own inner wisdom, why you started seeking validation outside yourself, and how you can rebuild that inner trust and learn to hear the voice of your deepest knowing again. Until then, I have one request, one simple action that would mean the world to me. Share one insight from today's episode. Maybe it's in the comments below this podcast. Maybe it's in a conversation with a friend over coffee. Maybe it's in your journal before you go to sleep tonight. Maybe it's in a text to someone you love. But share it somewhere, somehow, because when you share your insights, you're doing exactly what your fear was trying to protect you from. You're being visible, vulnerable, and real. You're taking up space with your thoughts and feelings and discoveries. You're contributing to the great human conversation. And the world needs your voice in that conversation. The world needs your real. Remember, you are not broken. You are human. You are made of stardust and ancient wisdom and infinite possibility. And that, my friend, is more than enough. That is everything.